Yeah, you've had a really good trip, so I'm sure you won't be complaining about that one. It actually sounded rather lovely out there, and with flat seas at the moment, because that big continent does protect you a bit from the northwest, which for those listening is 18 knots. But they're moving along really well. With I think they said 27. I don't know why I wrote down 37. 27 to go. I thought that's what it was. So your estimate of lunchtime is pretty good. So yeah, a good trip for you, and I think Saltart somewhere around you. So very well done, and have a good summer, Catherine. Over. Roger that. All right, and well, I'm just standing by here, folks. That was the Southern Cross, who are finishing their passage today. Not too distant future, 27 miles to go. Probably just after lunch. Very civilised time to arrive in a port, isn't it? No matter what we seem to do, we seem to always manage it at dark 30. But never mind. Good time to come into Bundaberg today. Hopefully the air is pretty clean. Haven't heard much about the fires this week in Australia, so hopefully they're getting them under control. Anyway, we're standing by. It's going to be right.
Yes, I've been watching them. They're about to. This one's opening here. This guy.
Yeah. The boat in Papaiti is called Boat 26, Sailboat 26. I don't know whether sailboat is part of the name or whether it's just 26. It's just called 26. The boat is called 26. It's a 52-foot lagoon, so is that 26 metres, I guess?
Yeah.
I suppose so. It's not his boat. His boat is in Tahiti. They don't have an SSV, so they've got a question for you, whether you will give them some help along the way.
Along the way to where?
To Tonga and then down. Here's something from Neil. Whenever I'm in trouble, I think, what would Jesus do? Then I pretend to be dead and disappear for 3 days. Now, that's Neil.
That's Neil.
Oh, that's a good way to start the day.
Yeah.
Oh, dearie me. All right, good morning, everybody. A minute early here. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, but we are so excited. It is the 17th of September. I know that for a fact because I had to look that up, because I always give David a cup of coffee when he's doing the weather, and he brought it into me and he said, well, that's very nice, but what's this? And it looked disgusting. There was a big pile of sludge there. Looked like he dropped a bun in it. And I put the milk in first, and I heat the milk in the microwave, and then I put the Nespresso on top of that. But when I checked the milk, it expired a week ago, and it had just taken its time to decide this is enough, and I'm going to make cheese at the bottom of this coffee. So it is, in fact, the 17th of September, and the weather here has warmed up. Now, I know it's not going to stay that way, but boy, last night was the first night we did not have the fire on, and this morning it is 16 degrees, which is a hell of a lot better than 13 that we've had consistently. So it's 16 degrees today, 1020.3 steady on the bar, 6 knots of west-southwest wind, and only about 40% cloud cover now. This is Patricia and David, and this is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZNH 286, which is on every weekday at this time. We cover a little bit of news, and I better stop every now and again to make sure we're not being annihilated by the radar noise that we heard yesterday. If we are, please go to 8779. just up the band a little bit. 8779 is quite good. I don't have to adjust the antenna on top of the roof, but if that's no good, then of course we have to move to 8297. All right, so I'm just going to pause to see if there's anybody with anything interesting. Just talk to Catherine. Is there anybody else? We've got Lupan reported in from Whananga. Sounds a nice day down there, nice and peaceful day away from Biscuit Cove where all the activity is. Whananga has 14 to 18 knots of south-southeast, 1018 on the bar, and sounds a very nice day down there. 70% cloud cover, still a bit of cloud down there, 22 degrees, not very tropical. The east coast of Australia actually looks the best at the moment. Looking at the satellite picture, it looks a bit cloudy in other places. That's changed since I looked at it before. I can't even see a couple of the islands.
I'll move this for you.
No, you'll move it for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's not too bad in Fiji.
So this is your
and there's a bit of a trough line over the top of it. But Biscuit Cove is not too bad. Unfortunately, Vanuatu is getting the worst of it this morning. And Lifu, it's busy, Lifu. 30 boats in the anchorage. That's right, a lot of boats are coming into New Caledonia. 20 degrees, 30 boats. Good Lord, in Lifu. It's pretty jam-packed. I've never seen it like that. 10 knots from the southeast, 50% cloud cover, 1018. Good morning to you, Diego and Marina. Thank you for that. Port Vila says it's a beautiful blue sky morning. At least you say. Let's have a look over your shoulder. Oh yeah, up there further
there's a lot of stratus.
Yeah, stratus. Okay, well make the most of that sunshine there. Whistler have got 17 to 23.
Why so many boats in Leafy?
Good. I'll tell you that in a minute. He wants to know why so many boats in Leafy, but there's rallies on heading west. 17 to 23 knots. Good kiting weather, I would imagine. South-southeast for Whistler in the Nganui Lake. Valak have got wind not very much at all. They're to the north coast of Vanuatu, only 1 to 2 knots of east-southeast, so quite difficult. We have to work out what's going on there.
Wind shadow.
Wind shadow. Okay, wind shadow from the peanut gallery here. All right, I keep meaning to tell you folk that we've got a couple of people complaining about the amount of pumice that's piling up from this undersea volcano, but every time I'm in New Caledonia with the boat, I gather quite a few bags of that small pumice because it's fantastic drainage for pots. So if you have a garden at home or know people with a garden at home and they do have pots, these small bits of pumice are great for putting in the bottom of the pot because they're light and they act as good drainage for the pot. Particularly when we have a winter like we have, having good drainage is actually rather useful. So if you are into gardening, you might want to gather up a few bags. In fact, I'm almost out of my little pumice. It's very, very useful for putting in pots. Talking about the local news up there, Wallace, Whistler have got 3 now. It's the Knowledge to End All Knowledge of Wallace. They've got some fantastic blogs detailing the diving, the anchoring, the churches. My God, there's a lot of churches. They did a drive around. They've got some beautiful pictures on their blog. I will get a picture or two on the Gulf Harbour Radio gallery so that you can then find the rest of it. But it's pretty easy to find. It's svwhistler.com if you are interested to go to Wallace next year. Fantastic place. I wish we had put that on our list of things to do up there. Too late now. Okay, moving a bit further away from the area of the South Pacific. Mr. Trump has said the US is locked and loaded. This follows the attack on the Saudi oil fields. He's blaming Iran. In fact, most people are looking at Iran either indirectly via funding the drones from the Houthis or directly themselves. But anyway, I think Mr. Trump is itching for a fight there. It wouldn't be a direct one either. He would probably just do it through Saudi, because they will attack Saudi, and then the US has quite a few bases in Saudi, so he would need to be on top of that. So they are locked and loaded. So it is going to get a little bit tense in the Middle East. What's new, you say, particularly as Mr. Netanyahu is also waving a red flag by his promises if he gets re-elected this week. Okay, petrol bombs and water cannons and all sorts of other things are the Hong Kong protest movement marches. It started off all very peaceful in the weekend. Rival protesters, however, started quite a bit of nonsense. They have a new protest anthem that recently has been written by a local musician. They have got all the things that they were upset about, but now they want full democracy and an investigation into alleged police abuse during this troubled time. So it's not going to go away quickly in Hong Kong. They really do want democracy, but they're not going to get that, obviously. China is not going to fall for that one. So we'll just have to keep a space for news from Hong Kong, just as we have a little space here for Brexit, which I'm not going to talk about today. Boy, it will be nice when the end of October comes. And of course, we have got a little space for what's going on election-wise in America, but boy, that's a space that has to last another year and a bit. But anyway, in France, Paris has been paralysed by a massive strike over pensions. Mr. Macron is trying to make those a little bit more doable, but the people are not very happy. The metro is not running, so that has caused a lot of problems. The unions just don't want to have any retrograde step on their pensions, so that's going to be a little bit of a problem there. Spain, down the road, torrential rain over the weekend, and it has caused absolute travel chaos and forced thousands of people to evacuate their homes. It's just a big mess down there. 5 are definitely confirmed dead from the flooding. So it's going to take a while to sort that one out. Going over to the UK now. Moving around the news today, aren't we? Julian Assange, another Australian in trouble. He was meant to be released from jail in the UK, but because he has a history of absconding when he's on bail, a judge has ruled he will be kept in jail until the full extradition hearing late February 2020. He faces about 18 charges in the USA relating to disclosure of natural defence information. And of course he still has the charges of rape from Sweden, I think it was. So he's enjoying full board and food at one of Her Majesty's institutions. Going to the United States, there are about 46,000 General Motors employees on strike now. General Motors failed to get a pay and conditions agreement with the United Auto Workers Union. That's a really strong union in the United States. But it's been 12 years since the last strike. The unions don't want the closure of 2 plants, one in Ohio and one in Michigan, that were building cars that are just not fitting the current needs. So that's going to be perhaps a little bit drawn out. They do have very strong unions over there. Talking about cars, the Frankfurt Auto Show or Car Show is on at the moment. This is sort of the biggest in the world, really. Everybody looks to the Frankfurt Car Show to see what's new, what models are new and so on. But protesters are outside, hundreds of them, all dressed in white, demanding that SUVs get off the streets. There is an outfit called, can't read my German writing, but the translation is Spanner in the Works. If I did pronounce it, it would be wrong anyway. They are people that maintain that SUVs are climate and environment destroyers. So they are campaigning and causing a bit of mayhem outside the Frankfurt show there. This next one is absolute classic. I love this report. I mentioned yesterday that after the elections in Moscow, where Mr. Putin's party got seriously affected, there were police raids all over the country on the opposition, the organisers and supporters and so on. But a police raid in Siberia did not net what they wanted. The Russian activist there, he used a drone to get his data from his high-rise flat to a friend. He loaded it up with the various hard disks, solid-state drives, flash drives, etc., and sent it off to a friend somewhere. And it worked. And as the head of the local branch, he was the head of the local branch. This was in Siberia somewhere. I can't remember the name of the place. But as the police came through the door, the drone disappeared into the atmosphere. I just thought that was...
I think it's cool.
Cool, yes. Some of these drones are a pain in the neck, but there are times when good drone and the good ability to use it are really quite useful.
Really
there you are. What else have I got here? What is the time? Oh, we've got another couple of minutes. Purdue Pharma, it's been confirmed that they have filed bankruptcy, and they have announced a $10 billion plan to settle more than the 2,000 lawsuits relating to the opioid problem. That's the use of OxyContin. So presumably OxyContin will still be manufactured because they will need to keep making the money to pay the fine, and the ongoing lawyer costs that they will no doubt have. But anyway, they've got a reasonable amount of money, but knowing American law, they probably need every bit of that $10 billion. Finally, in New York, the government, Andrew Cuomo, has announced he will take emergency executive action to ban the sale of flavoured e-cigarette products. This is amid surge of teen vaping and fears over the health effects. Sort of a bit strange. I can't really understand it. I mean, if the e-cigarettes are that bad, what difference does it make whether it's mango flavoured or whatever other else flavour they use? I presume it's sort of akin to a cigarette flavour. But anyway, they are going to ban e-cigarettes. It just seems to me to be a infringement of our rights. But anyway, we'll keep reporting on that. It does look like the vaping thing is under fire. Anyway, let's go back to the stream and see who's reported in. Nice clear day north coast of Vanuatu. And thank you for that. Good morning from Andrew. I'm going to use the easterlies to move south to Vila. Okay, so it's a bit cloudy over Vanuatu there. And Bunda, we've reported on that one. All right, so all looks fairly good, and I know there'll be a lot of people looking forward to another entertaining day up there in Muscat Cove. All right, it's almost 7:30, and we'll see what David has to give. I'm looking at my beautiful pots. The irises are looking fantastic on my deck here, and there's one right outside our window.
This is opening as I'm looking at it.
And one is opening as we are looking at it. It was not open when we started. That's only 15 minutes away, and now it's opened up. It's quite exciting, isn't it, watching a flower bloom? Yes, David.
I feel like David Attenborough, sitting here with my time-lapse camera, which I don't have. But literally, this flower is opening up. It's amazing to see it. It's almost as if you're running at a high speed, but it's not. Nature's great. And nature is giving us our weather. Mother Nature is in control, not us, folks. Anyway, good morning, and we'll take a look at the synoptic picture that Mother Nature has provided for us. Our pie, by lunchtime, is going to be located due north of New Zealand. And it's fairly moderate anticyclone, 1026 millibars. It's going to get stronger, but at the moment it's about 1026. Now on the Queensland coast, the depression that we talked about forming near Brisbane has done so, and those yachts that are going to Bundaberg and the couple that are just about there now are quite lucky. They're looking at northwest winds approximately, which is basically, if you were to look at the isobars on that forming depression, you'd see why the winds are northwest. But they're not strong, which is good. Now, that low moves into the Tasman a little bit later tonight, and that's going to be pushing a developed trough to just to the south of Harvey Bay. And at this time also, a new high is going to be entering the Tasman, not the one north of us. This is a new one, and it'll be east of Sydney by late tonight. This one is getting up there in strength, 1032 millibar, 1032. And finally, we have a cold front that's going to cross New Zealand. In fact, right over Gulf Harbor Radio by around midnight tonight, I would say. We probably won't hear much of it, snoozing away. Now, the Tasman high should be between New Zealand and Australia Thursday around lunchtime and over New Zealand on Friday. Now, this anticyclone, this is going to be the player, the weather player. It's going to be large in area, very, very large. It's going to encompass the entire Southwest Pacific at that point. It's going to provide classic trade wind conditions for you. So all throughout the islands, as the week goes on, you're going to be under the influence of this giant high. Do we call it a big fat high? Well, we could call it a big fat high, but so far it's not got the strength that ordinarily we see. But who knows? It may get stronger. Well, we'll look at the tropics. Moving north, of course, a bit of a change up there. Mainly, the big change is the elongated trough that was running from the Solomons. This is split into a whole series of features. The Solomons trough per se is still there and goes about as far as the Santa Cruz Islands. Then we find a quasi-stationary front that lies over most of Vanuatu. You could look at it under satellite imagery as we're doing right now. A separate trough runs from Tuvalu to Tokelau, so that part of the original trough is broken up and is doing that sort of trajectory. And then the Fiji-Tonga group of islands is being entertained by a quasi-stationary front. And that originally was part of the overall trough from the Solomons. And we can't forget the Northern Clubs. They've got their trough up there, again, virtually every day. Now, this, I suppose, is a good example of why you never hear me use the term SPCZ, SPCZ, South Pacific Convergence Zone. It's a very, very overworked term, and the way people are using it today, it implies singularity, like you're going to have one convergence zone, and there it is. But it never works that way. Usually, we have multiple troughs for multiple reasons. So anyway, I just don't use that term. For Tonga, the frontal band has shifted a little bit north from yesterday. It was over Tongatapu, so it's gone up towards Babao now. In fact, Tongatapu looks pretty much on the southern edge of it at this point. So for the northern areas of Tonga, you can expect associated cloud and showers. Tomorrow, with a little bit of luck, we may see fine weather for Tonga. Keep your fingers crossed on that. That may hang around, but quite possibly things could dissipate and the weather will be a little bit nicer. But there's always going to be the chance of cloudy periods and isolated showers. You are in the tropics. This is normal. Now, reports this morning show Babao scattered to broken, south 6 knots, barometer 1015. And if you're in the Hapais, the airport reports southeast 12, scattered to broken, and barometer 1016. And down there in Tongatapu, they reported rain earlier. Not at the moment, but this was a couple of hours ago. And wind south-southeast 13, cloudy, we'll call it scattered clouds, and barometer 1018. So we have a bit of a pressure differential there in Tonga. So we are going to get a bit of breeze. Expect south-southeast 15 to 20, probably going to be closer to 20 knots for the highs. And tomorrow, I think a pretty good solid southeast wind, 20 knots, and at least in that range, 20 knots. Alrighty, now for Fiji, the quasi-stationary front is weakening. You may wonder why yesterday it was a trough and today it's a quasi-stationary front. More has to do with the density of the system itself. With a trough, you have very, very little density difference on either side of the axis of a trough. The weather is about the same on either side, where with a frontal band, you do have a density differential, and they're picking that up. So that is why it's being called at the moment quasi-stationary. Quasi-stationary just means moving less than 5 knots. So that means very, very slow moving, and the weather across that axis does have a density difference, whether that's in temperature or whether it could be any number of things, let's put it that way. But anyway, it's there, so expect associated cloud and scattered showers about the group. You can see it quite readily on satellite imagery, those of you that have the internet. Tomorrow, weather should improve, but lingering cloud in many of the areas could bring isolated showers. Now, due to the building high to the south, Fiji Met has issued a strong wind warning for all of Fiji's waters. We're looking at southeast winds 20 to 25 knots. And this, of course, is going to bring rough seas and a moderate southerly swell along with this. And I expect the same winds for tomorrow as well. Now, with a little bit of luck over there in Muscat Cove, have we heard from Muscat Cove? Anybody? Yes. They're too busy having fun, I guess. They may very well be, you may very well be in the wind shadow of Viti Levu. You're right at that edge where the wind on the other side of this line is, as I advertised, but right in and about the cove area, it might be far more gentle. So with a little bit of luck, you'll have that wind shadow area, and only you can really tell us that, unless I get a good satellite pass, which so far I haven't gotten. This is the microwave satellite. Looking long range, though, for those of you that are wanting to move around, and by move around I mean moving from island group to island group, come Sunday, we're going to see some very strong southeasterly winds, I think, for Fiji. It could be sooner than that, but I believe 25 knots virtually everywhere, again, except for the wind shadow areas. But in open water, where you're not protected by the big islands, it will blow. And there are a few spots, I think, that are going to be seeing 30 knots. So those of you that are planning to move from, say, Fiji to Nukal or to Vanuatu, the wind will be in a good direction. All of this is part of the anticyclone circulation. So you're going to have very, very strong trade winds. So you'll scoot along pretty fast, but it might be a bit bouncy for you. Okay, moving to Poro Vanuatu, and on imagery, as we said, it's showing a fair amount of rain-bearing cloud. The cloud's running northwest to southeast. It just sort of parallels the chain. So I would expect cloud broken, of course, with showers. They would be isolated. Not much rain has been reported, though. Looking around at the various reports, I'm not seeing much at all of any showers of consequence. So maybe you'll get lucky, except for the cloudy conditions. Quite a bit of wind. In the north, southeast 20 to 25, a little bit less as you go south, getting down 15 to 20 maybe. The seas about 2.5 meters. High tide, happened to pick that up. Port Vila, for those of you that care. Port Vila high tide, right about now, actually, right about now. And the low tide will be this afternoon at about 1:23 p.m., 13:23, 24-hour time. Now, by the end of the week, again, expect strong winds there as well from that building high to the south, and we'll be looking at east-southeast to southeast, 25 knots or so. These are what we would call reinforced trade winds, and we haven't seen those in a while. This season, that we've had a number of occasions where this has happened, but not as regular as the season before that. So this looks like another one that's coming up on us. So keep that in mind. Over to NewCal now, lastly. That shows a fair bit of stratus on the satellite imagery this morning for our area. It perhaps will dissipate a little bit later today. We'll have to see about that. So for today in our southern lagoon area, expect east to east-southeast about 10 to 15. We'll just call it partly cloudy. Maybe that stratus will burn off. Gusty, though, later on today. The winds, I think, are going to rise. The mean winds rising up to about 20. That means a fair amount of wind in the area of our ELOs, our beautiful ELOs. And gusts possibly getting up to 30. So if you are out there, make sure that you are anchored in a spot that is protected from that wind direction. Tomorrow it's better in terms of the wind strength, east-southeast about 10 to 15, and there may be a chance of scattered showers tomorrow, especially in the loyalties. So those of you that are in LIFO, you may be seeing some precipitation. And that's all I've got. So there you have it, the big picture by Mother Nature. And here's the boss.
Did you cover Exocet Strike going across?
I think
Just,
so.
yes, I think he's covered. We've got a couple of boats moving around and moving next week as well. Is there anybody else wanting to give us a heads up for needing any particular information? Believe it or not, looking at following sea, there's still quite a few boats in French Polynesia. Mind you, if it was me, I'd still be there too. I love French Polynesia, but it's leaving it quite late to move across and see anything, although they probably will just leave seeing Tonga and the rest of the places for next year. Anybody with anything in particular, please call.
Anybody with a working radio?
Anybody with a working radio? Yeah, some of these boats don't have an SSB that are coming across. It's interesting that we're finding that quite a few European boats now are not installing an SSB. I guess it's just yet another thing to fork out euros for. All right, I'm actually a net controller today for the HamNet. Anybody of you who are ham license, 2100 UTC, which is in about an hour and 25 minutes on 14315 upper sideband if you want anything, because we have net controllers on both sides of the Tasman, which makes life a little bit easier. And of course a couple of you up there in Fiji on the net. So there you have it, folks. We will leave you and go out. It might be a little bit more blustery here, but it looks like it could be another dry day. Absolutely unbelievable. Loads of washing done yesterday. It's amazing how you get excited about doing washing when you haven't been able to do it. Do it, yes, but bring it in and out, in and out, in and out, and dry it in front of the fire is not exactly an easy way of doing it. So it's going to be a good drying day here today. Cheers, everybody. We'll be back again tomorrow. And don't forget, if you want anything, our email address is ghradio@extra.co.nz. Cheers all. Have a good time.